I'm very excited. But y'all, please let us know what y'all did 2025, what y'all did to enter into 2025. Like, I'm highly interested, very interested to know what y'all did for 2025, entering into 2025. It's the whole new year. Like, it's going to be a great year. It's going to be an amazing year. It's going to be an amazing, 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 amazing year for 2025.
Should take your bags away.
Okay, it's going to be an amazing year for 2025. All right. So more people are joining in. So as they're coming in, as you guys are coming in, please let us know where you guys are at. Please let us know where what you guys did for 2025 as well. Okay. And also make sure you meet when you come in as well. Okay, y'all? Because we're about to have a good time. We're about to live a stress-free life. We're not gonna be stressed in 2025. We're not gonna be stressed. We're gonna say it all together. We're not gonna be stressed in 2025. No.
Not gonna be stressed in
Okay,
2025.
literally. We're not gonna be stressed in 2025. Okay, y'all? This is not gonna happen. Not at all. Not it. Okay, we're gonna tell stress you have no room here. Okay. We're taking the needed steps to make sure 2025 is going to be a fun and amazing year. Okay, so as people are coming in, all right. Okay, so I think right now is a great time to start. So, hello, everybody. Thank y'all so much for just joining us. It's actually the first,
You
it's
dropping oil. Don't
our
get no oil on your shirt.
first webinar of 2025 for Black Girl Vitamins. And y'all, we have a very, very, very good topic for today. Okay. So, our topic for today, stress less, live more. And we have a special guest with us, our BGV medical advisor, Dr. Nicole Swiner. So we have Dr. Nicole Swiner here with us, and she's going to give us all the gems. She's going to give us the gems for this webinar. And we also want to have Dr. Nicole to come and introduce herself, let the people know like what it is and how excited you are for this webinar and actually how excited you are for 2025 because we're not going to live a stressed 2025. We're going to be less stressed. Okay. We're going to be stressless, no stress at all. So, Dr. Nicole, if you can come on and just let the people know that you are
Yes.
here. Okay.
Well, hello, beautiful faces. I see y'all. I see some of y'all. I'm waving at you. Hello. It's so good to see y'all. Happy 2025.
Huh?
She's absolutely right. We're not going to stress. We are not going to stress. We're going to claim it. And I even on my, I think for my very first post for New Year's, I said, I'm claiming this as the year of revolutionary wellness. Like we've been playing around with the soft life and self-care and these buzzwords and, preventing burnout and all that. But I say this year, we're all getting serious about it. And this is revolutionary wellness, right? So that's what I'm going to claim. So I'm touching and agreeing with Miss Jessica out there.
No,
That's
for
what we're going
real.
to do, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for muting yourselves. I know it's kind of annoying. We're all used to the Zoom politics nowadays, right? But we do want to make sure. Yes, I see people in the chat like, yes, agreeing, touching and agreeing, putting my well-being first.
Okay.
We want everyone to be able to hear. We want, no feedback, and we're also going to record this so that we can post this later. So Ms. Jessica actually is going to be in charge of muting all if we see that there are still some folks that are having trouble with that. All right. All right. So while Miss Jessica gets our slides ready, just to introduce who I am, I'm, as she said, one of the medical advisors here with the wonderful Black Girl Vitamins team. I am based out of Durham, North Carolina, Bull City. I saw some North Carolina folks in the chat. Hello. And my background is as a board certified family physician. So I'm a good old fashioned family doc. I talk about anything and everything from the cradle to the grave, taking care from kids, the elderly, everything in between, women's health, mental health, keeping us healthy, living longer, more healthy lives. And then kind of my brand is as the No Superwoman Complex expert, where I focus on less stress, more self-care, more balance, if that exists, what that means in terms of your life, your relationships, your work, and your businesses, if you're into that, if you want, or you already are an entrepreneur, how to create more balance. So this is right up my alley, talking about cortisol and stress, and let's get started.
As you can hear, as what she said, she is an expert on this. Okay, so we're gonna get the needed information because, like I said, I'm not living a stressed life. I'm
Not
stressing
gonna do
less,
it.
I'm living more. Okay,
You're not
stressing
gonna
less, living more. 2025, all 2025. Okay, I want y'all to put in the chat, stressing less. I'm gonna stress less and live more in 2025. All right, y'all. I'm gonna need that in the chat. Okay, I'm
I
really gonna
like
need that in the chat. Okay.
that.
So yes. So we're gonna go ahead and start and we're gonna have a great time. So we're gonna start with the first question. So our first question of the day is, what is cortisol? Number one, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't really have a full understanding of what cortisol is, and how does cortisol levels affect your stress? And then also, why are these factors uniquely impactful for Black women? Because I want to know, because I feel like I'm just overly stressed sometimes, and I don't know why. And we just need to understand these things, okay?
Absolutely. So cortisol is another one of those words that you might hear thrown around, when it comes to stress. Everybody's talking about getting their cortisol levels checked, and we'll talk about that later, and how we check your cortisol levels. But cortisol is the stress hormone. We have a lot of different hormones floating through the body, both men and women. But cortisol is like the main stress hormone. It's the one that, under normal circumstances, we all have it, we all need it, because it's our fight or flight type of a hormone, right? It's the one that keeps us on high alert. It's the one that back in the day when we were, cavemen, hunting and gathering and killing our food, right? We also didn't want to be killed by the food, by the animals, be hunted ourselves. So cortisol was that hormone that kept us ready to move, ready to adjust, ready to make things happen so that we kept ourselves safe. The problem with cortisol is if there's too much in your body at one time, or over time, if we have too much cortisol, it can be damaging to everything, to your brain, to your blood vessels, to your organs, to the way you feel, to your mental health. So too much cortisol is not a great thing. Even though we need it to live, you don't want a high level. So that's what cortisol is. It's produced by the adrenal glands, which, if you can imagine your kidneys, which are your shaped like little kidney beans, which are in your back, right? Underneath your rib cage, the bottom of your rib cage is where your kidneys sit. If you someone says it froze. Can y'all hear me okay?
Mhm.
Jessica, you got me? Good. So your kidneys, if you can imagine where they sit in the body, okay, good. She can hear me now. In the bottom of your rib cage, located more closely to the exterior from the back, your adrenal glands are little top hats to your kidneys. It's literally shaped like a little hat on top of each kidney. So you have two adrenal glands. Both of those are responsible for creating the hormones that we need to move and live, whether it's related to testosterone and progesterone and estrogen. Cortisol is one of those things. And so that's why, we focus on it so much, because it's something that we need to help with, like metabolism, digestion, things of that nature. But again, if it's too high, that becomes inflammatory to the body. All right. So that's how it affects stress. Cortisol literally causes an elevated sense of literally anxiety. It causes elevated blood pressure. It can cause elevated blood sugar. All of these things can cause inflammation to the blood vessels, to the body, clearly to your organs, right? To your heart, to your brain, your kidneys, all these things. Black women in particular, unfortunately, we suffer from a lot of things more than everybody else. Why is that? Is it because we're Black women, right? We were built this way, and we feel like we have to do all the things for everybody and fix the world? That has to do with the superwoman complex that I talk about a lot. That causes increased cortisol. Is it this sense of tension and demand and burden that we carry to have to do perfectly, right? Is it the stress that we carry just because we're worried about our families and going to work and performing well, or having to do twice as good to be considered normal or average? that can cause elevated levels of cortisol, elevated levels of stress long term. And so, because of that, unfortunately, it then ends up causing a lot of the medical and mental health issues that we also, unfortunately, suffer from in larger amounts and higher numbers than everyone else in the population. So that's how it's impactful for Black women. The last thing I'll say about this question is there's a phenomenon that I love talking about called weathering. I don't know if you ever heard of that,
I've never
but
heard
it
of
is literally the study of how DNA, the things that make up our cells and make up our bodies, tell us who we are, our genetic code. DNA over time, particularly for Black folks, is shortened or weathered down because of socioeconomic stress, because of racism, because of the demands of just being Black. They also see it, interestingly, they also see it in medically trained residents, the people that are going through medical school and residency, they see it there too. But weathering, I believe, is directly related to cortisol, and together they cause increased levels of stress. I'll leave it at that. I could talk forever about that.
No, because this is information that, oh, and just to know, like, high levels in cortisol is just related to anxiety and high blood pressure. So then it's kind of like it's related to so many things. So it's like if we don't
Everything.
control it,
Kareem eating good got us all hungry.
if we're constantly if we're constantly stressed, it affects our health in such a negative way. Like it is just like we need to get it together, y'all. So,
Mhm.
like I said, this year, like y'all put in the chat, no
Yeah.
stress 25. And I did see somebody say, oh, I left stress in 2024. And I agree with you 100%. Okay. So
Yeah.
no, question number two, what are the most common symptoms of imbalanced cortisol levels? And I need to like get this one. Like, this is
Yeah.
important to me.
So there are symptoms and there are signs, right? So symptoms can be things that we feel, signs can be things that we notice or that show up when we do a physical exam with our physician or in our lab work and all of that. But I'll kind of lump them all together. So as I mentioned earlier in the first question, elevated levels of
Oh,
cortisol
yeah.
can cause inflammation, right? So anything that causes, someone use a good word, oxidation in the chat. So oxidate anything that breaks down or can cause a weathering or a withering away to your blood vessels, to your soft
You have
tissue,
a tan again today?
to your blood flow, to your organs, and the organs, the way that they move and operate. So when you think about how do you figure that out, or how do you know that that's happening, we would measure that in your blood pressure being too elevated because your blood vessels are becoming inflamed and restrictive. We can measure that in your blood sugar being too high because your cortisol is actually either directly related to your sugar levels going up, or because we're so stressed and our cortisol levels are high, we're eating more comfort food, usually more sugary, then our sugar is going up, right? So it's either directly or indirectly related to some of the things that we see. Because we may not be eating the way that we need to be, that can be related to obesity or weight gain or a difficulty with losing the weight, right? We've all, in the new year, of course, we all have lifestyle and nutrition and dietary goals. If your cortisol levels or if your stress levels are too high and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, you're eating right, you're exercising all the time, you're doing what you need to do. If you're stressed and your cortisol levels are too high, your body actually feels like, I can't allow you to lose this weight because we need to protect ourselves. If we lose too much weight, that can be damaging. So your body won't allow you to lose the weight. So it's, weight management and all that, it really deals with all of those factors, not just diet and exercise. So those are just some of the symptoms, chronic headaches, chronic muscle tension.
And they said,
I try to do it on my own.
Got it. And also, as you guys are coming in, please make sure that you mute your microphones as well, just to make sure that we can all hear. But yeah, I've definitely heard, especially I've 100% heard that stress is definitely connected to, or just high cortisol levels is connected to even your weight, right? It's like when you're stressed, it's kind of hard to kind of like lose like certain parts of your body. I think they say like the lower pouch in the stomach, like
They
that's
call
something.
it the cortisol belly is literally what,
Yeah,
yeah, because it's
exactly.
the
And I
fat.
see that.
kind of redistributes to that one area. Because again, it's protective, right? Back in the day when cortisol was all we had to help us when we had to get up and run from the tiger that was trying to eat us, it was trying to keep us fat and healthy, right? Fat and healthy. That's why it does that. But, we're not running away from lions and tigers now. We're fighting with, all these other things that we have to fight with. But the way that our bodies still operate the same way.
One thing to take away from
got it.
that
Also,
when you try to
make
take
sure that
off,
you guys are muting yourselves. You guys are coming in, please. But yes, okay, now I'm gonna check that off because it's probably the reason why I can't really lose this. I couldn't lose this last year because I was so stressed last year. But like I said, 2025, stress less because I need to lose this. Okay. I'm definitely the goal is to lose that.
Yeah. And it also decreases your metabolism. I meant to say that too.
Okay. So cortisol and just weight is just it goes hand in hand.
Directly linked, right?
Directly hand in hand. Okay, got it. Interesting. So next question is, how do I know if my cortisol levels are too high or too low? And are there specific tests or measures or to measure your cortisol levels?
Yes, this is a key question, especially for folks that, when you go to your primary care physician's office or your endocrinologist or your GYN, and you hear about these things, you want to know, okay, well, how do I know? How do I know what my levels are? Or my naturopath or my herbalist, how do I figure out what my hormone levels are? Yes, we can check your labs, but there's a specific way it needs to be checked. You can't just check in the middle of the day, while you're working, probably your highest stressed moment, your cortisol level. It has to be first thing in the morning.
Oh,
so do what's called AM cortisol. Freshly, waking up. Hopefully, you're not too stressed upon wakening. Although they say your cortisol is probably pretty high when you first wake up, just because you're like, the day, I have so many things to do. But AM cortisol is the best way to check it in your blood work. You can also check, there are ways to check your urine levels, but usually we're focused on your AM blood work for your cortisol. Your primary care folks can check it. If you see a naturopath or a naturalist or herbalist, they can, write lab orders for you to either take back to your primary care or they can send you to a lab and get those levels checked. But that's the best way. And then when you check it, of course, the lab is going to tell you what's normal, what's high, what's low. And so you'll compare your number with their levels of normal, high, and low, and see where you are there.
Got it. I'm looking at the comments now, and even just going back to the previous question, they're just like, oh, cortisol belly, LOL. There's like, I've been trying to lose the weight, but like now that I know it's my stress, okay, I'm glad I know this information.
It's not all your fault. It's not all your fault.
It's not. It's really not all your fault. And now that we know, you can't really be too hard on yourself, okay? And then also just the information that you just gave about just like taking the test in the morning when you get up. That's actually when your body is relaxed. Or unless you wake up kind of like just frantically. That's different. That's definitely different. But yeah, now that I know that, okay, oh, there's so much information that we have to know, y'all. There's so much information. And just know that this will definitely be sent and recorded. It's definitely recorded. It will be sent to you. So we have this information in our back pockets when we need it and we're feeling stressed. We're just gonna take this information from Dr. Nicole Swiner, okay? Because she's that girl. So next question is, how does caffeine, sleep quality, diet, exercise affect your cortisol levels? We talked a little bit about this, but you can go ahead and add the extra that we need.
Yes. So I think now that we know where, now that we've talked through where cortisol comes from, why we have it in the first place, genetically, historically, I think we can all kind of put the pieces together to say, okay, well, how does this thing cause elevated cortisol? So caffeine, which is great, I live on it. I got to have my first cup of coffee first thing in the morning. If you have too much caffeine, what do you think happens? And I'm going to see if the chat lights up. So if you have too much caffeine, what happens to your body, like physiologically, right? Let me see if we'll get some good answers. So
Coming in, y'all. Oh.
How does it affect the adrenals? Too much caffeine stresses you. Good. So y'all are on the right track. Too much caffeine literally can increase your heart rate, right? Caffeine is like speed, right? It's like adrenaline, which again, you need, but you don't need it all the time, You don't need it because we're not always running away from the animal that's trying to get us, right? But you need it to keep you going, to keep you motivated, all those things. But caffeine is directly related to, right, rush. But over time, if you have too much, then it can cause your cortisol to be too high. Okay. And also, this is probably a sidebar, but usually the things that we're drinking that have a lot of caffeine also have a lot of sugar. And we already talked about cortisol and sugar and weight gain, right? All right. Yes, good. Oh, somebody's getting heavy with the neurotransmitters. Yes, I love that. Get into it. Y'all going off in the chat. Sleep quality. Do you know what sleep apnea is, right? Sleep apnea, where people have to wear the CPAP and it helps them to deliver better oxygen, because when you have sleep apnea, you have something that's like literally obstructing the blood flow and the oxygen flow, more importantly, to your brain from your lungs. Decreased sleep, or meaning not enough sleep, hours of sleep, or you sleep 8 to 12 hours, but you're not getting a good enough flow of oxygen, that's decreased quality of sleep, directly related to increased cortisol. Sleep, I feel like I could spend another hour on just alone, because lack of sleep causes the increased cortisol, but it also increased tension headaches when you wake up, or increased blood sugar imbalance and diabetes. Obesity, sleep quality or lack thereof is another reason why it's hard for a lot of us to lose weight, because you're not sleeping well enough, not getting those cortisol levels low, not allowing your body to fully rest and work up that metabolism. So that's good. Yep. I see y'all in the chat. Y'all are making some really good points about that. Diet and exercise goes without saying. The lower the amount of inflammation or inflammatory things that we put into the body, the better, right? The more antioxidants, the more anti-inflammatory type foods, drinks, those things, alcohol, unfortunately, the less that we add that to the body, the less our body will have problems with cortisol and stress. Exercise, more. Move the body more, because the more you increase your activity level, cardiovascular exercise, getting sweat on the brow and your heart rate up to a nice exercise related rate. So not crazy high, but of course a little bit higher than your norm. You're working off and burning calories. That is actually very helpful. That will help to bring the cortisol down. That increases your good feeling stuff, your endorphins, and then decreases all the bad stuff. So the more exercise, the better. The national standard is if we all focused on at least 150 minutes per week of exercise. That is what we should all be shooting for. So break those up into 3 days a week of 50 minutes, 5 days a week of 30 minutes, however you like to do it. But we should all focus on 150 minutes per week of cardiovascular exercise. So not just lifting weights, cardiovascular, getting some sweat on your brow, working your heart rate up.
Okay. Got it. I'm a girl for weightlifting, and I know I have to do a little bit more with the cardio, so we're gonna we're definitely gonna do that. But just to for us to know, what are some anti-inflammatory foods? What are some foods that you feel as though that can increase your cortisol levels, or what are some foods that can help manage it or just help lower cortisol levels that we can just take it on a day-to-day basis? Because I know for me personally, I can work out. Sometimes I can work out. It's just the food. Because me, I love a good meal, right? And I love a good large meal with
Yeah.
cheese and a lot of cheese. And I know that's something I have to work on. So
It's for a lot of us. Like, we work out really well, we stay, athletically active. But if you're eating a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't be eating, or you're eating more calories than you're burning, that's where it really comes in. Sometimes I can not even exercise, but then focus mostly on my calorie intake and get even better results, right? With weight management. So yeah, that's the case for a lot of us. So when it comes to anti-inflammatory foods, I don't have a list kind of memorized in my mind, but I do know that the more organic, the more healthy, the less man-made, the man messed with, the better, right? So clearly things straight from the ground are going to treat our bodies better than the things that have been processed, loaded with sodium for preservation, loads of fat and oils, right? We know that processed foods are going to have a lot of bad effects. So the more that you can focus on things that come right out of the ground, your fruits, your vegetables, your seafood, particularly because it has omega-3 fatty acids. And you can, also take omega-3s. We'll talk about what you can take later, but seafood in particular, especially if it's not fried. If you fry it, you kind of negate the the good effects. But I would say fried fish is probably still better than a steak, right? Because of the red meat, the fattiness, the cholesterol in it. But seafood in general, I think is probably a really good thing to focus on. Your fresh fruits, your vegetables, lots of water to decrease inflammation.
Got it. Yeah, I think
Oh,
it just, oh,
chat too.
yes.
Some
But yes, even in the chat, they're like the fries. Yes, it's the fries. It's the fries for me too. I love
fries.
fries. Fries. I love fries.
And you
Oh,
can make the fries instead of frying it.
and
You
there's,
can
like you said, there's always alternatives for everything. So you can like always know when it comes to eating and making sure that you eat well, there's always an alternative. And that's also what I'm into is always making an alternative for my favorite type of thing. I love cake and I know like I have an issue with sugar and I'm changing that and I have been changing that and I'm continuously changing that. So it's just using different types of sweeteners and things like that that can help. So always know it's just always makes those different changes in moderations and just make those changes that help better the meal.
right? Because life is about pleasure. You don't want to have a boring life where you can't do this, can't do that all the time. It's boring. But you're right, making adjustments, right? So either you love that thing and you're going to have just a little bit of it just occasionally, or you want to do it and you want to have it regularly, but you just have to figure out, you have to switch things out and see if you
Ex-
can. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what we have to learn as well. Because like I used to think that eating healthy or eating well was just having like chicken, broccoli, and rice. That's all I thought. Or just like a regular salad and that's it. That's it. That's all I thought what eating healthy was until I started looking at other like people on socials that make healthier versions of my favorite food. I'm just like, that's possible. I did not know that. I'm going to start doing it. And once I actually started doing it, it made me very mindful of how I eat. I'm still like sugar is still something that I do need to, cut, but but it's
Work in
definitely
progress.
something. Yeah, it's
Work.
all about progress, y'all. It's all about progress. So just don't beat yourself up. It's all about progress. And I did see something in the chat. Someone said that they really love to incorporate exercise regimens. They really have to incorporate exercise regimens. They don't like lifting weights, but love to dance and love to do movement classes, which goes great with what you said about how more cardio, 150 minutes of cardio per week, right? Or yes. So that's something that you can also do, right? Is
Yep.
include those dance classes. Dance a little bit in your home for 30 minutes a day, right?
Want to shout out for those who are in the Raleigh-Durham Triangle area. I want to shout out Club Cardio NC, which is now my new favorite trap step aerobics class. I go, it's phenomenal. You twerk a little bit, you shake your thing, and you come out. Whoo! It's a great workout for like 45 minutes to an hour. It's really good. So yeah, you have to find something you love so that you'll stick with it. I've also been kind of beginning into Pilates. There's a Black woman run Pilates. Shout out to Prevailing Pilates here in Durham, North Carolina. Black woman owned and run. And that's another thing that I try to incorporate once or twice a week. So yeah, you got to find what you like so you'll stick with it. If I'm on the treadmill staring at the TV, I'm gonna get bored and I'm not gonna stick with it. But if you find something where you're dancing, moving, loud music in a group of other people, it'll keep you motivated.
Oh my gosh, I love a good step aerobics. Like I love step aerobics. I haven't done a class. I would just watch online and I have like a step stool, so then I'll just use that. But I
Amazing.
need to do a class. Like I want to do a class. I think this year is the
Down
year.
here. Come to
Excited.
Raleigh, Durham. We'll go
You
together.
know what's crazy? I'm gonna actually do it. I'm actually gonna come. I'm coming. Okay, I'm coming. We're actually we're coming. We're coming there. Yes. So another question that we have for you is it true that high cortisol levels prevent me from losing weight? Which we did talk about. So if you did want to add a little bit more to that, but we did talk about that as well.
Yes, yes, yes. So not only is it directly related to the way that your fat is moved around the body, we talked about cortisol belly. It also decreases your muscle mass. What else? It could cause obesity in a lot of different ways, but it is also indirectly related because of the habits that we do because the cortisol is high. So we mentioned your cortisol is high, that's going to give you sugar craving, you're going to eat the wrong thing. If your cortisol is high, it's going to cause you to feel more fatigued and less motivated, and you're not going to go exercise. So then that causes you to not be able to lose weight. So yes, both directly and indirectly, cortisol is related to problems losing weight. Mhm.
No, yeah, because I do realize when I am stressed, I am kind of like I just kind of like, "Ugh, let me go eat something just cause. It's
Yeah,
just kind of like just
okay,
because
good.
it
It
just
feels
makes exactly it makes me feel better. But then what I want is not what I need. That's the difference. And what I want is not what I need, and I need to have what I need versus what I want all the time. So that's the issue, but we're definitely fixing that. Like I said, 2025, we're fixing that in 2025. So how can I effectively manage work-related stress, keep cortisol, our cortisol levels in check? And also, guys, please make sure you mute your mics to make sure that we can hear everything. So
yeah. Yes, mute, mute, mute. Thank y'all for joining us again. So this is a hard one. Work-related stress is, it comes with almost any job you pick, right? If it were play, it wouldn't be called work. It's work. You got to go and do something that somebody else is telling you in order to make the money you need to make. You got to take care of business and you have responsibility. So work is not always fun. It's always going to be some level of stress. Hopefully not an excessive or overwhelming amount of stress related to work. So, but again, because I talk about the superwoman complex, that's my thing. Uh, One thing I always tell people, and this may not be an easy answer, but if your work is too stressful or your job is too stressful, guess what I'm going to tell you to do? Let me see if they say it in the chat. Guess what I'm gonna tell you? Find a new job. Thank you, Renee. Quit. That's right. I'm a quitter. I am all the way a quitter. So just a quick snippet about my own story. So again, as you know, board certified family physician, family doctor. That's what I went to school for, etc. Love doing it. Was in private practice for 15 years. Was incredible. It was an incredible experience, but at some point I got burnt out. It became too stressful, right? My blood pressure started to go up. I was having numbness and tingling into my arm because my neck was too tight. I said, you know what? I'm not going to kill myself for this. I can still do what I love, but I'm going to do it in a different environment, do it a different way. So that's why I do the things I do now. So find another environment, find another job, find another lane to be in. There are plenty of things that we can do, even if you didn't go to school for that thing, right? So but if you can't quit, or if you're in the middle or you figure it out and you're looking for other opportunities in the meantime, other things that you can do is make sure that you're leaving work at work. Leave work at work. Once you log out, clock out, turn that work email off. I had to do this for myself, even with the job that I have now, one of the jobs that I love. I took my work email off my phone. So once I leave that space, it's not constantly following me on my phone, right? Turn your, if you're able to get a work phone and a home phone, separate phones, leave that work phone, turn it off so that, you don't feel like it's constantly reminding you of what you have to do. Someone in the chat, absolutely. Go ahead and when it's time to leave, unless there's an urgent matter, leave when you're supposed to leave, right? Don't always focus on so much OT, overtime, because you're trying to get the bag. I mean, clearly there are moments when we need to do that. We need to take on more hours because we have those goals. But hopefully that's not something that you're doing on a long-term basis. Leave work when you leave work and leave work at work. Specifically when it comes to cortisol, one thing I was doing when I was working inside of a clinical setting was for lunch, I was going outside, leaving my desk, pushing back, taking my lunch outside or eating my lunch, sitting in my car or taking a walk so that I could get those stress levels down and just getting away from the screens and from all of the demands and the burdens that people will, not on purpose, they don't mean to, but everybody's at work trying to get things done. They want to ask you questions, even if it's your lunch break. Want to ask you stuff, can I, run this by you? Can I, you want that lunch hour or lunch 30 minutes to be a time where you're literally just kind of breathing and de-stressing and just taking a moment to yourself. So that's one way. Of course, again, if you can get that walk in and get some exercise in, if it's not freezing where you are, you can, killing two birds with one stone. Not only are you decreasing your cortisol because you're getting away from the stressful environment, but you're also exercising, and that's bringing your cortisol level down. That's another thing. So what else? You got some good tips? Those are my big ones. What else do you do to decrease your work-related stress, Jessica?
Me, I'm a music type of girl, so I think for me, listening to music, it just calms like I'm mellow when I
Yeah,
listen to music. And it also depends on the type of music that you listen to as well, right? So I like to listen to like very just mellow music.
great. Yep. Listening to music is a big one for me too. I have separate playlists. And so if I feel like I need a little bit of energy, I play my, my Anderson .Paak and my Kate Renata and my Tyler, the Creator. If I need to be slowed down a little bit, I play my, what do I like? My Anderson .Paak too. And my Beyonce, the slow songs. And my, what else? What else do I like to play? My Sade to kind of bring me down, right? So you have your different playlists for what you need. But yes, music therapy is therapy as well. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, some good information, especially for those that work at home. I think that's another big thing, right? Is to find a way to separate. Because if you don't, it's kind of like you're living in where where you're working at. It's just everything all at once.
Yes. The other thing that's kind of related to what you mentioned is, and I still have to work on this, is trying not to do work in your bedroom, right? So if you work from home, trying to remove your workspace from the place where you're also supposed to rest. And stop taking that laptop to the bed. I'm talking to myself. Stop taking the laptop to the bed and thinking, oh, I'm chilling. Let me just get in here and do that. Completely remove, because you want your brain and your body to remember the bed is for rest and other fun things, not work. Right. So that's another way to help your body to separate your mind, to separate work from rest. Right. Yeah. I see y'all. I see y'all in the chat. Y'all are giving good tips. Yes,
They're
pray
giving good tips.
without saying. Absolutely. Do that all throughout the workday.
Okay, important. Prayer is important, y'all. It's important. It's definitely
Sometimes I like
therapy.
some candle wax and you
Yes.
can.
Oh, candles. Oh my gosh. You know what I love? Oh, I love to light a little bit. I love to light a little bit of candles and just like smelling and just scent. Oh, honestly, lighting candles for some reason, I think it's the aesthetic. It just makes me feel better. I
Yeah.
think it's the aesthetic. The aesthetic makes me feel so much better. So I cannot agree with you more. Okay. I absolutely love it. So our next question is, how does chronic stress impact overall health and interact with other bodily systems, such as hormone regulation? This is good. This is really good.
And so again, we've touched on a little bit of that kind of with the other questions. And I think someone even in the chat mentioned PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and how that's related to your stress hormones and all that. But you know, your adrenal glands, which again, if you joined us later, are the little top hats on top of your kidneys. They have a lot to do with your hormone levels. Your ovaries clearly have a lot to do with your hormone levels. Your pituitary gland that sits in the middle of your brain has a lot to do with hormone levels. All of these glands have to talk to each other. Your thyroid, big dog, the big dog in terms of your metabolism, your energy, your mental health. All of these glands have to talk to each other to produce more of or less of something. They all have to be balanced together. Cortisol, if it's too high, is going to cause a problem in the chain because they're all kind of interrelated and connected to one another and produce another thing. If your cortisol level is too high, it's going to cause for instance, it's going to cause your ovaries to not produce enough of something else because it thinks we have too much. We have to slow down production. If your thyroid level is too high, it's going to, for instance, talk to your pituitary gland, and your pituitary gland is not going to do what it needs to do because it says we have too much of that thing. So one chain being broken gets in the way of the other chain. So PCOS, for instance, if your estrogen and your progesterone levels are off balance, they're not talking to one another, then your periods are not going to happen when they're supposed to happen, or they're going to be longer than they're supposed to be, or your testosterone is going to be higher, so you're going to grow hair where you're not supposed to have a lot of hair, right? So all these things are connected to one another in cycles and chains. And if one is off, then that affects how the others communicate with one another. Does that make sense? I feel like I need a board so I can draw some arrows. Right.
This definitely makes sense. It 100% makes sense. Also, if you have any questions, put it in the chat.
This thing Kendra sent me is
We're definitely gonna put it in the chat. If you have any questions, make sure y'all put it in the chat because we're definitely gonna make sure we answer those because we're gonna answer as many questions as possible. Because we definitely know that you all have some questions as well. Next question is, what are the best strategies for managing long-term stress to protect mental and physical well-being? And
Yeah.
I talked about that as well, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we've definitely touched on different things in terms of tips and tricks and strategies. So exercise, as healthy of a diet as you can have realistically to decrease inflammation. Um, good sleep, good quality sleep. So not just long sleep, but good quality sleep. At least 6 to 8 hours if you can get that good quality sleep in. This is every night, even on the weekend. Because there's no catching up, by the way. We all think we can catch up on sleep on the weekends. There's really not. You use it or lose it. So those are the big three: diet, exercise, sleep, right? And then when it comes to external things or feeling like there are mental health um, things that happen, dysfunction, whether it's depression, OCD, panic, if your natural things have not been helpful, whether it's the tactics we talked about and your de-stressing techniques or your natural herbs and supplements, if they aren't helping, then of course talking to your medical providers is the next step because then they can either help point out some things that you haven't thought of, or they can test your hormone levels, as we talked about. They can test your cortisol, test your thyroid, test your estrogen levels, see where those levels are and why they're not normal if they're abnormal. They can also talk to you about therapy. If therapy is something that you think that might be helpful, just to help you kind of figure out where the imbalances are. How can I adjust my behaviors? How can I adjust my relationships? Is it something that I need to be doing different? Do I need to be hanging out with some different people? Do I need to not be in a relationship with this person? And will that de-stress a lot of my situation? Sometimes it's, extra people or extra things we're letting into our environment that we don't need to have. And then, of course, there are prescription meds. So depending on what the issue is, you tried your natural ways, you tried your supplements, you tried your rest, you tried therapy, etc. Clearly, there are prescription things that can be helpful for whether it's, depression, anxiety, PCOS. There are things that are pharmaceutically based that can go along with what you're already doing with your behaviors and changing your lifestyle that can go hand in hand. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that's definitely important. I never realized how important therapy was until I don't know, until things started just coming together. So I really do appreciate that. Definitely. No, definitely do appreciate that as well because it's definitely important. So next question is, should one consider getting prescription medications for managing stress?
Yeah, I led right into that. You saw that. So so the answer is it depends on the person, it depends on the situation. Let's say we have anxiety. Okay, we'll take that as an example. So let's say you suffer from anxiety, you suffer from that elevated sense of doom, hard to relax, hard to de-stress, waking up in the middle of the night with cold sweats, palpitations, feeling like things just aren't right. Let's say you're dealing with that and you've tried, melatonin to help you get to sleep better. You tried magnesium to help you relax. You've tried massage. You tried exercise, and it's not getting better. You tried all the things. You tried prayer. You tried meditation, and maybe it's helped a little bit, or it hasn't really changed much, and you just need something to help you function. Absolutely, yes. Prescription things are there to help us in tune or in conjunction with talking to your medical provider, right? So you want to talk all the things through. You want to try all the things that you're most comfortable with first. If those things don't work, then yes, prescriptions do work. So for anxiety, we have the SSRIs, we have the SNRIs, these abbreviation just that stand for the things that you know of. It's like Paxil, Lexapro, these medicines that we prescribe that you don't necessarily have to take forever. the Valiums, the Xanax, which I don't always love to give people long term. But on occasion, these medicines are there if needed. And hopefully you don't have to take them for a long time, maybe 6 months, maybe if it's triggered by something traumatic that happened, once you can kind of deal with things with therapy or deal with things with prayer or meditation or talking to your religious leaders, et cetera, things will kind of with time get better. But the medicines are there to help when needed. But that has to be, of course, in conjunction with your trusted medical provider so that they're watching, they're monitoring, they're talking to you about potential side effects. They're making sure that your lab levels, some of these medicines can cause different things to happen with like your blood work. You want to make sure that you're watching and monitoring those things. So the quick answer is yes. It always depends on the situation. It depends on how the stress manifests itself. It might be high blood pressure, right? So if you're stressed and your cortisol levels are too high, all of a sudden your blood pressure starts going up and you can't get it down with decreasing salt and more sleep and exercise and all of that, then yeah, I definitely would prescribe something to help your blood pressure as you're working on the other things. And then hopefully, as you are focusing on the lower salt, the lower inflammatory foods, increasing your exercise, treating sleep apnea, as your blood pressure gets better, hopefully then we can come off the blood pressure medicine. So that's always the case. They always, use the medicine for as long as you need it, but you're always working on other things that hopefully at some point you'll be able to take the medicine away in conjunction with your medical provider. Never stop taking the medicine before you talk to your doctor that prescribed it. FYI.
This is all great information. I hope y'all are taking notes. Like I said, we will have this recorded and sent to you, but I hope y'all are taking notes because this is some really good information. Can supplements or holistic practices help regulate cortisol and overall stress levels? Let's that. Yeah.
Yes, holistic practices, absolutely. And we touched on some of those throughout the discussion. Specifically supplements, yes. I mentioned magnesium in the previous question. Magnesium, particularly glycinate, there are a lot of different types of magnesiums for different things. But specifically magnesium glycinate, which can help also with sleep, can help bring your cortisol levels down. Things that can cause decreased inflammation, like omega-3. I mentioned that earlier with seafood. You can take omega-3 supplements, fish oil, flaxseed oil, cod liver oil. What's another one? Those are the big three that I always think of, but they're under the umbrella of omega-3 fatty acids. Decrease inflammation and help decrease cortisol. Vitamin D. We all love vitamin D. We talk about it all the time for multiple reasons. Also helps to decrease your cortisol levels. Vitamin E is an antioxidant. It helps reduce the irritation and the inflammation that can happen inside the body. That's a good question, Monique. I'm gonna get back to you. She said, can you over supplement? I'll get back to that. What are some other good ones? Magnesium, vitamin D, B6. So, we talk about B12 a lot because that has to do with like metabolism, energy, some people with numbness and tingling if they're deficient, but B6 specifically, I will talk to ladies about like if they're having tension headaches or they're having really bad premenstrual type things happening. Vitamin B6 is a good one for that. Decreasing that tension, decreasing that cortisol. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I had some notes that I wanted to make sure to check. So those are the big ones. And I think those are the ones I wanted to highlight. Yeah. Someone mentioned in the chat a very important question. Can you over supplement? The answer is yes. You can take too much of a good thing is not always a good thing, right? So iron, for instance, you want to make sure that you're not taking too much of it, that's not over constipating, that it's more than what you actually need. So you want to make sure you're getting your blood levels checked. Vitamin D, probably not as much of an issue. If you take a little bit more vitamin D than needed, that's not going to be harmful. But too much magnesium, depending on what type, can cause you to feel really drowsy. Too much vitamin C, sometimes, you can change the color of the urine, or it can cause, different things to happen in the skin. So you want to make sure that you're, not overdoing it. Ashwagandha, that was the other one I wanted to point out, supplement wise. ashwagandha, which is involved also in one of the Black Girl Vitamins products. I believe the Minochill, if I'm not mistaken. But ashwagandha, even if taken by itself, can help a lot with like irritable bowel syndrome, with anxiety, with insomnia. It brings down your stress and your cortisol level. Yeah.
Okay, so hope y'all took all this information down. I definitely did, but I'm gonna listen to this again because
And then y'all can always reach out to me, via social media. Shoot me a DM. This is the stuff that I do through my wellness practice. I do consultations and answer people's questions when it comes to this stuff. So you don't have to remember all this stuff for yourself.
it's like literally, and Dr. Swiner, she's literally amazing. So make sure y'all definitely send her any questions that you may have because she's definitely gonna answer them. That's why we love her. So we did have time for maybe like one question.
Y'all
So any other questions, if you want to put in the chat that maybe you guys may have. Okay, we see a hand raised. You is it Omena?
Yes, it's Omena. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having this platform. And thank you, Dr. Nicole. Like, you were so informative. I'm definitely going to be following up. If you all can put her information in the chat again, because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. So my question is this, like, is does high levels of cortisol also affect the melatonin production? It's a two-part question. That's first part. And then does the cortisol or high cortisol levels relate to dementia? Because my mom has dementia and my mother's been under extreme stress like my whole life. And I'm 40, about to be 49. I can't say my whole life, but definitely from like, elementary school on up, right? And she's in a lot of grief and she's in the first stages of dementia. And I feel like that also caused her to consume a lot of sugar. So, what are your thoughts about the correlation between cortisol affecting melatonin production and maybe possibly leading to dementia? And I'm complete.
Okay. Yes, that's a great question. As you were talking, I was Googling to remind myself exactly where melatonin is produced, because we produce melatonin naturally in the body, the pineal gland in the brain. So although I can't connect in the algorithm where cortisol would then be connected to the pineal gland, I can just from the things that we've talked about, and either directly or indirectly, I would not be surprised if too much cortisol decreased the brain's ability to release melatonin, either the right amount of melatonin or at the right time, right? Because melatonin, we're supposed to get a good push of it right before nighttime, right before bedtime. But if all of those things, the chains and the communicating pathways aren't speaking to one another, or if the cortisol is too high, it then causes the decreased production of something else to help the body to balance it out. So I would not be surprised that cortisol would be related to decreased melatonin production. Number two, God bless your mom, and I'm hopeful that her journey with dementia improves and gets better. Now that you know that she's in the first stages. But I absolutely can see how increased cortisol can cause decreased white matter, what we call white matter. So remember what a brain looks like. You've probably seen a brain on TV or in anatomy class or whatever, but literally the matter that makes up the brain, we call it white matter, gray matter. The white matter that has to do with our processes, our processing ability, our memory, definitely get decreased in high stress situations. Definitely get low blood flow in high stress situations. So again, I would not be surprised if increased levels of cortisol are directly related to increased issues with dementia, just because of the damage it can cause to the actual tissue of the brain. God bless.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that because my mother's up all different times. Like she sleeps during the day, but then she's up at night. So I'm just trying to see like because I was the one that said I'm very much into my holistic wellness. So I'm always researching and studying, trying to keep me and my family healthy. I'm actually overcoming a little cold right now, but it's because I'm not resting enough. So this was all great information. But yeah, I was trying to see the correlation between that because she's up at odd hours of the night and then I'm like, it's her stress. It has to be the stress. So
Yeah.
thank you for this.
You're welcome. If you can hopefully find some activities during the day to keep her more alert and up so that she is more tired at night and will sleep more at night, maybe. I don't know. And I know that's a difficult thing. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of different, things going on with dementia, but that might be helpful. Trying to keep her up more during the day, get more activities during the day so that she sleeps better at night. But God bless. I hope it gets better.
I just love this. And I just love how we're entering into I love how we're entering into 2025 with this webinar. It is definitely was just mind-opening and just really helps me understand the impact that stress and just your cortisol levels have on your entire well-being and your entire health. So thank you so much, Dr. Swiner. Really do appreciate it. And as we're here, like I said, we definitely will have we will definitely be sharing this recording of the webinar, but we also do have a special discount for you all before you all leave. And it is no stress 20, okay? No stress 20 at all. So use the special 20% off discount on all of our products as well, not just vitamin D3, but everything, right? Everything we have on there. So make sure that you guys go on, make sure you guys take a screenshot of this because it's only good for 24 hours. So because it's only good for 24 hours, you got to use it within the next 24 hours, okay? So I want y'all to just go ahead, take a screenshot, write it down, do what you got to do to make sure that you guys have this code. But I definitely want to say thank you so much, Dr. Swiner, for just being here, for just giving us the information that we need, and just helping us to live a stress-free life in 2025. So thank you so much.
Less stress, be blessed.
Take less stress and be blessed. That is the message for 2025. But I really do appreciate you, Dr. Swiner, and I can't wait for our next webinar because we're gonna have another one, Dr. Swiner. We're definitely gonna have another one. And I just want to say thank y'all again so much for this, for coming, joining, taking your time on a Wednesday evening, okay, on a Wednesday evening, just to come and chat with Black Girl Vitamins, chat with your fam, because we're all like family, right? But thank y'all so much. And I cannot wait for the next webinar. All right, y'all. So I will chat with y'all later. All right. Thank y'all so much. And thank you again, Dr. Swiner. I really do appreciate it. We really appreciate it as a team. Okay. But thank you guys so much. And I'll chat with y'all later. Bye, y'all.